Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 264, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week, so let's get started. This was a light week for me, and I think for a lot of people, because it was a 5th Wednesday, and DC Comics had a lot of like the Looney Tune annuals, which I don't pick up any of those, so I didn't really get many DC books this week, which kind of leveled out to make a smaller pull for me. So I only got 13 books, and I think next week I have kind of a lighter week too, but then like the last 2 weeks of November is like a lot of books, so just the way they've been kind of balanced lately, it's been weird. But yeah, let's get into it. What was number 13 for me this week? And that was Vault of Spiders issue 1, a Spider-Geddon one-shot tie-in. Not really a necessary book. I don't even know how any of these spiders are going to be involved in Spider-Geddon, but it's just short stories of different spiders, and that's it. And none of the short stories really interested me by any means, so that is why it is my least favorite of the week, because I just couldn't get into them. Artwork was okay, nothing really spectacular besides, I would say, the manga style book I thought was really cool. It felt like I was reading a manga in an American comic, so I thought that was interesting. But other than that, that's the only thing that really stood out to me. So I'm going to give this 2 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Tony Stark Iron Man issue 5. This is a one-shot that's outside of what's been going on in Iron Man to see what's been going on with Tony Stark's brother. And I've never been a fan of this character, so I really was not interested in his story at all. I thought the artwork was pretty mediocre. Nothing to really write home about, so that also kind of took me out of it. So yeah, artwork and story, just wasn't feeling it. I think it really just depends how big of a fan you are of this character. I'm sure it'll tie into a future storyline, and hopefully sooner than later. That way we don't forget about this story as well. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. Again, just depends on your fandom of this particular character if you're going to enjoy this. So moving on to number 11, which is Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Mr. Fantastic. So this is going to be the second, I was going to say second to last issue, but penultimate issue of the series. It was just announced that it is ending this series because of, Fantastic Four coming back and Chip Zdarsky not wanting to step on Dan Slott's toes with that series. So he is ending it. And honestly, you could kind of tell from the last couple of issues that his heart has not been in this series as much as it was in the beginning, which I really liked this series. Same for the artwork. Really did not like the artwork here. I feel like it's still really messy and not as detailed as what Perez usually does with his artwork. So I've definitely seen better from him. Everything just feels really sloppy to me artwork-wise, and that really brought me out of the story, which wasn't like a horrible story. It's, Ben and Reed connecting again, and there's this interesting story with this good Doctor Doom, and we find out the reason he was good is because Mr. Fantastic was dead in this universe. So I thought that was interesting, but nothing, again, to write home about with this story, especially with the lackluster artwork. It definitely does not balance out for me here. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. I will be finishing up this series and getting the Sue Storm issue, which will be next month, and I believe, like I said, it's going to be the last issue of this series. And I love Sue. She is my favorite Fantastic Four member with the Human Torch, so I'm really excited to see that team up next issue. Brother and sister, they have not seen each other in a while, but hopefully different artists for that issue. So giving that one 2.5 stars. Alright, so we are moving on to number 10, which is Hex Wives, issue 1. This seemed to be a little torn. I've seen people like it and seen people dislike it, and I am more on the dislike side. I was actually really excited to read this issue when it was announced out of the DC Vertigo books. This one had the most interesting concept to me, but I just felt like the execution was really off. So what this story is about, it's about these two women who are witches, and they keep finding each other. They're lovers, and every single time they find each other, they are able to defeat this enemy who has been the narrator of this book, who's kind of a witch hunter. And now in the end of the issue, there's a new version of them, and we see one of them is actually the wife of our villain slash narrator of this book. So interesting concept, just the execution and dialogue was not for me. Half of it is very old-timey, and I didn't really care about the voice of our villain, and that's what really got me to not be interested in the next issue, or this issue in particular. I did like the artwork overall. I enjoyed that, and again, I like the concept of the book, and I like the idea that these two women were in a relationship, and when they do find each other, they are powerful and kind of remember everything. I thought that was cool, but yeah, the dialogue just didn't do it for me. So, I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. Probably won't get the next issue for that. But really cool cover, though, for Hex Wives. Alright, moving on to number 9, which is Spider-Geddon Force, issue 1. I'm really curious to see what my frontliners think about this one, because I know Jay was very excited because of Spider-Kid, and just curious to see what Mike would be thinking about this one as a Spider-Man fan who's been liking Spider-Geddon, and I believe Brant liked Spider-Geddon as well, but plugging Comic Frontline there. But yeah, I was excited for this one, or interested at least, because of Jessica Drew. We have not seen her in a while, and I like the character, and I really liked her last run, which was the Spider-Woman series, and I want to see what she was up to. And that's the stuff I liked here. I enjoyed seeing her boyfriend again. I really like that character a lot. Let me just show you that over here. Roger's all tied up. So I love those 2 pages, and just seeing that glimpse that I really enjoyed from the Spider-Woman series. But everything else kind of feels like a mishmash. Like, it just felt way too crowded and unorganized. I'm like, whoa, okay, well, what's going on now? And then by the end, you kind of figure it out, because it is out of order as well. So it gets a little confusing when I was reading it. But it is going into the world of that Uncle Ben who was Spider-Man from Spider-Verse, and who was also actually connected to Mayday Parker. We got to see some good stories between those two. So we get to see his world again, and that's why they have to wear the radiation suits and everything. But Kane is the lead, it seems like, of this series. He's bringing these people together. We get to see new characters like Spider-Kid, who I personally didn't really grow attached to here. I do think his costume looks cool, and the artwork in general is good here. Like, some good action over there. Kind of reminds me of Greg Land's work, except like better facial expressions, but the detail does remind me of Greg Land's work. But yeah, Spider-Kid, yeah, I didn't really do much for me. The team-ups in general I thought were kind of weird. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. I wanted to like this, and I still will finish the miniseries because I've been picking up all the Spider-Geddon books, but I just thought it was a little bit too chaotic and could have been a little more organized, the narrative. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. I believe that was number 9. Yeah, that was number 9. So moving on to number 8, which is Extermination, issue 4. This is a series I've been overall liking. I do like this issue as well. I do think there's a lot of exposition for this issue, which is why it's a little bit lower, but I do like that we get to see that this young Cable's not a villain. He's just trying to make the timeline correct again, which makes sense for Cable's character. And then we get to see a big ending with Cyclops dying, this version of Cyclops dying. So we'll see if that actually happens. But was it a surprise like Cable? No, because walking into this and going into this, we expected the young X-Men to die, or at least be destroyed, because that's how this event was promoted. So I'm not surprised by the Cyclops thing. We'll see what ends up happening with this character. But also the artwork is really solid for this book. And overall, if you miss the X-Men working together, this is a fun event. Not the best issue out of the series, but it still was an okay issue. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Again, if it wasn't for the heavy exposition, it probably would have been a little higher. I would have liked more character moments out of the exposition. Alright, moving on to number 7. A book I was surprised by, and that is X-Men Black, Emma Frost, issue 1. Did not like the artwork. Bachelot's art has never been my cup of tea. He did like Wolverine and the X-Men, stuff like that. It's just very abstract. Kind of out there for me, so I'm not a big fan of it. It's just bulky. But again, it's just subjective there. But the actual story I really enjoyed. Out of all these one-shots, I feel like they've all just been explaining who these characters are and giving very generic storylines of Magneto and Juggernaut. I didn't read Mojo. Was there another one? Let me see. There probably was another one. I know I didn't read Mojo. And they don't tell you in the end. That's awesome. Did they tell you in the front? They tell you nowhere. I'm sure maybe the other ones they did. But anyways, so I read 2 of them, and I guess this is the 3rd one. Oh, Mystique came out. I didn't read Mystique. But out of the ones I read, it was just very generic and by the numbers. But here we actually do get to see a continued story with Emma Frost that does go back to her roots, which is the Hellfire Club. And we get to see her become the Dark King, and I love the way she ends up doing it and how she teams up with the X-Men. I did not care about the Apocalypse story, which is why this is lower too, because it does take a number of pages to tell it. I'm like, oh my god, I'm not invested in this at all. But I really liked Emma Frost here, and I'm curious to see how this is going to continue and what this means for a relationship with the X-Men and where the Hellfire Club is going to be going with her leadership. But it was very Emma Frost and very in character for her, and that was a nice surprise and made me feel like, oh yes, I bought this one shot for a reason. Something actually happened. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars, and that was number 8, I believe. Number 7. Alright, so moving on to number 6, which is another book that kind of surprised me, and that is What If Magik Became Sorcerer Supreme, issue 1. Love this cover. This is my cover of the week. And I've never been a big Magik fan. Always wanted to be, though. I always wanted to like Ileana. I like when she interacts with people, but never could get into a straightforward Ileana story. But here I think they really explain her character well, and it's easier to get into her character with this story, where we get to, you know, see obviously her origin, which is that she was stuck in hell for years and became a teenager and grew up in hell, and what that means. And she gets to fight her demons here with the help of Stephen Strange, who has enough of a sense of humor and levity to him that he can actually train Ileana to be Sorcerer Supreme. The thing that brings this down is the art. Things sometimes feel very small, like when she's picking up her thumb looks like this small. Everything feels really lanky. I did not like the art style, but I did really like the story, and if you've never gotten into Magik, or you've never even read a Magik book, and Magik as in Ileana, not just like Magic as a theme, but if you've never read it, or even a Doctor Strange book, like if you want to get into Doctor Strange, I feel like this is a really easy pickup. So I enjoyed the story, and I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, we are in top 5 area now. And number 5 is Sex, Death, Revolution, issue 1. For the title, kind of misleading. There's not, I guess there is some death, not a lot of revolution, and there's no sex in the book. So it's a little misleading, but they kind of explain what it means in this book. But talking about the artwork first, I really like the art style overall. I enjoyed that. I like the character designs, and the way they show Magik here was pretty cool, so I like that. But what did I think of the story? One thing I really got into were the 2 main characters, or I guess the 2 leads. The one lead being like she wants to get into this like kind of hardcore magic and go into like death magic and all this, and her coven's kind of breaking apart, and we get to see the only person's like kind of really caring about her is her girlfriend, and we learn how they met and kind of what their relationship is. But along the way, I guess because the main character did this spell, we'll find out as the series goes on why this is happening, people are forgetting what really is in the past. Like, they keep the world is changing, like their past is changing of events that never happened, and it's making our main character look bad. People aren't liking her, and which is why the coven is breaking up. But the girlfriend knows the truth, and she's able to understand the truth because of some reason. I hope we learn in future issues. So like I said, really like the characters, but the actual world I'm a little confused by. I hope they kind of explain it more. I thought the magic for me wasn't as interesting. Again, I'm not a huge Magik fan, so maybe that's the reason I couldn't really get into that side of this book. But it definitely gave me enough to want to try out the next issue and see where this goes. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Nancy Drew, issue 5. So disappointed this is the last issue for a while, I guess. I don't know if it's continuing. I hope it does, because it leaves you on a pretty nasty cliffhanger, so I hope it's just taking a break. That's what Dynamite tends to do, though. Like, even when it's the same creative team, they just, like, end it on a miniseries and then, like, pick it up, like, months later. Like, Betty Page is a good example. They have a little advertisement for her in the back too. Like, Betty Page had a couple of issues. It ended up, I guess, being a miniseries, and then the same writer is gonna be on the next chapter. They just took a little break. I don't know why they just don't go the Image route, where they're just like, all right, we're gonna be on a little hiatus, and then we'll continue the regular numbering. But they, like, do different volumes in Dynamite. I don't know. It's confusing, and I hope they explain if this book is coming back, so I'd like to know. But anyways, this issue is ending our mission here. The lobster guy, he's selling drugs. Nancy finds out about it. Bess is kidnapped, so it's a Nancy Drew crew. Did not mean that to rhyme. But they are going to try to save Bess. They end up hopefully getting this guy arrested, but it seems like the police do not want to believe them. And they're trying to clear, at least, I think, what's the love interest, his mother's name. They're trying to clear it. But there's definitely a lot of things still up in the air. Like, Nancy's mom's story wasn't really fully closed here. Again, Nancy gets arrested in the end, right when, you know, kind of there's this happily ever after story where she's going to be staying. So as much as I like the issue, because there's some great character moments, I really enjoyed it, and I love the artwork for this book. It's always really detailed, and I just like the style a lot. The ending's still getting me, because I'm like, when are we going to get another issue? And again, there wasn't like a whole lot of closure with this issue. It felt like more of an end of an arc for an ongoing than an end of a miniseries. So I'm gonna give this one 3.5 stars. We'll see. Hopefully we get that next issue soon. So with the same creative team, that would be nice. So I'm gonna give that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Heroes in Crisis, issue 2. Solid issue. I think there's some really great Tom King related character moments. You know, those small, subtle moments that we really enjoy with Tom King if you enjoy his writing. Which I do really enjoy his writing. Especially with Harley. Like her playing poker or go fish with a penguin. I love the little scene with her and Poison Ivy. And we do get to see some interesting plot progression where you're like, maybe Harley didn't do it because Poison Ivy's dead and she wouldn't want to do that to the person she loves. So I'm really interested to see where that's going, and obviously Booster being very confused if he did anything or not, and then tells Barry, and Barry's really upset about it. And then the small moments of the interviews with Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman. I especially love that ending where Superman's like, I don't know what I am and who I am, because it's always that age-old question, is Clark, or is Clark Superman, or is Superman just a disguise? Again, it depends which writer is writing it to kind of get that answer. And Tom King psychologically digs into it. It's like, do I have two identities? Am I two people? Is that bad? And I also like, obviously, Batman dealing with his own trauma, because he has a lot of, and his biggest trauma being his family always getting hurt or dead. So that's a big thing, and I think with Wally's death and Roy's death especially, he really sees himself in this. So I enjoyed that scene. So those are the small moments I liked with the overall psychological theme of this book, which I've been really enjoying. So overall, again, does it really progress the mystery? Not so much, but the character moments is what's really shines here, and Clay Mann's artwork, so great with these beats that Tom King creates with this script. He's really gotten some great art partners, and you could see it's within his script the way he writes this kind of cinematic style of storytelling with these comics. So I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is West Coast Avengers, issue 3. Man, this book is so much fun. That's just the best way to put it. It's just like, you know, over-the-wall type storytelling, and I just like it. It's fun, and we get to see the Tiger battle just become even bigger, where these other women that were, I guess, not kidnapped, but they were having, not a relationship, but they were with MODOK, and they end up turning into these monsters, and then we get to see that these are just regular people being controlled by MODOK. And then Kate ends up getting, not kidnapped, but, you know, and, yeah, I guess kidnapped, and she becomes Kate Hawk. She becomes a big hawk, which is hysterical. It's just like, that's such a West Coast Avengers moment. It kind of reminds me of the show Legends of Tomorrow, like these kind of like out there moments that just totally work and are hysterical and just makes such a personality for the series. It reminds me of a Marvel version of that. And artwork is always really detailed. I like when Tigra goes unconscious, we get this kind of like line in her head. I thought was really cool. And even the little detail of Kate having a arrow tattoo on her ankle, I thought was cool. And I like the designs of her pajamas and then her going into her costume. The small beats really matter to bring personality and true character to these characters, and I enjoyed that. And there's some really other good character moments as well, like Quentin kind of figuring out he might like Gwenpool, and her not having powers might be a problem, so that was cool. And then obviously Clint trying to save Kate no matter what was really good. So overall, really solid issue, and just been a really fun series, like I said. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is, I think, the first time this has been my pick of the week, but it's been in my top 5 enough, and that is Fence, issue 11. I believe this is the penultimate issue before it jumps into being a graphic novel series, so but I really enjoyed this. If you like sports series, and if you like anime especially, I think you'll really enjoy this, where we get to see Nicholas, who's our main character, being the ultimate underdog, which is so good. And he and this other guy that Eugene, we learn a little bit more about him and his family, where you actually care about him making the team as well, where they have to watch a match of someone else to try to get on this team. And then the match also has a lot of intensity because you find out these two characters were in a romance with each other. So there's just all this really great built-up tension. And then by the end, you get this emotional hit where obviously the coach has to figure out, do I bring in Nicholas on the team or do I bring in Eugene? Because they have an opportunity to be kind of on the team. They're in a reserve spot. So what's going to happen? And then they both kind of like, hey, the other one should be on the team because they deserve it. And it's really cute, and you get to see that the coach is really proud of both of them, but especially Nicholas, and that's kind of the last page is telling Nicholas, I'm proud of you. So I really enjoyed it. I felt like this issue had it all, and the artwork is so good too. It's very anime-esque, but it also brings so much personality to this book. And again, this kind of cuteness level to the series as well, which I think it needs. So overall, really enjoyed this issue, and I can't wait to see how it ends this chapter and then moves on to the graphic novels. So I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And just a little reminder, or just announcement, next week my reviews are probably going to be a little late. I think it'll be posted on Saturday. That's what I'm going to try doing. So sorry about that, but I am going to try to post my reviews. So I'll let you know if anything changes on Twitter or Facebook. I'll make an announcement. But I am going to try to have the review on Saturday. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.